So when you talk about nut jobs, of course, you got to start talking about Michelle Bachmann. She has signed off on a letter that's a fundraising pitch, authored this letter, for the American Conservative Union Strike Force. Strike Force. And, of course, predictably, she attacks Barack Obama in that letter. Now, she's a Republican, Obama's a Democrat. Political attacks against him are entirely sensible, logical. That makes sense. That's what you're supposed to do, right? But our concern is not that. Our concern with the likes of Bachmann and Glenn Beck are that they seem to subtly, and sometimes not even that subtly, encourage violence, right? So let's look at some of the quotes from this letter. You make up your own mind. First, she says, will you let Barack Obama kill conservatism? And kill is in capital letters, right? So it's not that he's, against conservatism. He wants to kill conservatism. It's a threat to you. And she continues. The president, she calls a, quote, political street fighter, right? So more allusions to violence, and he's coming to fight you, and he's going to start something. And then she continues and says that his agenda is, quote, a dagger pointed right at the heart of conservatism. The violent analogies and metaphors continue, right? So now I think that's already significantly borderline. But then she turns from it's trying to kill conservatism with a dagger and street fights, etc., to targeting you, right? So then she says, first part is not as bad. Obama wants to use Acorn to radicalize America because he isn't interested merely in defeating conservatives. Now that's crazy, and they have these ridiculous theories on Acorn we've talked about before, but that's regular stuff. But then she continues that sentence by saying, in capital letters and with an exclamation point, he wants to annihilate us. That's the purpose behind Obamacare too. He wants to annihilate us. He wants to kill us, stab us in the heart with a dagger, etc. When you put it all together, what the right-winger that's getting this, and honestly, a lot of, not every one of them, but a lot of extreme right-wingers who read the American Conservative Union Strike Force, who are part of that strike force, they get this letter, Obama's going to do a street fight with a dagger in the heart. He's looking to annihilate us. It was in capital letters with an exclamation point. What am I going to do? I got to do something. It's either him or me. I got to act. Now, we cover stuff like this all the time because we're worried. It's a growing concern. And they do it all the time. That's part of why we highlight it on the show. Because if they do it once and it goes away, and it melts away, all right, and they made a mistake, they come out and what? First of all, of course, they don't think it's a mistake. They never apologize for it. But what's most disturbing is they do it over and over and over again. And that subtle and sometimes not so subtle encouragement to violence, Obama's going to come and annihilate you and harm you. You better act first, right? That's the implication. And so I'm afraid that somebody in the strike force is going to go, oh, well, they're quite right. I don't want to be annihilated. I don't want my family to be annihilated. I don't want my worldview to be annihilated. I got to hit first. And remember, these are the guys who believe in preemptive strikes. So that's why we're concerned. And for them to pretend that they don't understand that concern is totally disingenuous. For them to turn around and go, whoa, 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 what do you mean? What do you mean? Encourage violence? I just said, dagger this and heart that, and he's going to kill you. I mean, what? What part of it is encouraging it? And Beck and Bachmann, they're the biggest culprits, and I don't know how to put an end to it. I don't. But the best we can do is point it out and tell you how despicable they are and where they're driving this country. And one way, look, Glenn Beck, you can't put an end to because Roger Ailes is the guy who makes the decision at Fox News, and his decision is, I love that, and I want to encourage that. It goes back to a speech that they made, honestly, a local Republican made in Virginia. He's not a big figure or anything, but he said, look, we're going to do this either through the ballot box or the bullet box. Reminds me of the Malcolm X speech, ballot or bullet. And so I don't know what a bullet box is. But anyway, maybe I'm not familiar enough with guns. So you can't do anything about Glenn Beck, but you can do something about Michelle Bachmann. Michelle Bachmann is an elected representative. I mean, if you're in that district, you can't continue to have her represent you. It's your choice. But if you think that, if you like that your representative, even if you're a conservative, you think, yeah, that's great, I want her to subtly encourage violence against the president. Okay, well, then you're going to vote that way. But if you're a conservative, find another conservative. Run a primary against her. Find someone who's totally conservative, but not a lunatic. I mean, and if you're not embarrassed by her, then I guess, you know, then this is going to fall on deaf ears. But I'm hoping that there's still some conservatives in the country who are not this right-wing and don't want to encourage violence, that just believe in their conservative ideas, that they might take action and lead to a more reasonable Republican Party. Maybe I'm going, you know, maybe that's the most naive thing I've ever said in my life, because the party seems to be going further and further right.